Hello and welcome. And the big question today is new voters register, to do or not to do. The nation is literally divided into political ideologies, one saying that we need a new one, the other saying no. But is there actually a cause for alarm? Should we just go through, sift through and get the bad ones out, or should we shut shop, go back to the scratch and do it? But indeed, do we even have the foundations to start a new one? Because that's what the NDC is saying. Now listen, the status quo remains. If you close this and you bring a new one, however it is that this one got bad, the new one can also get bad. So why are we complaining? Let's just hang in there. Can the next election survive on this register? If someone wins or someone loses, are they going to go home knowing that, oh yeah, you know, they allegedly 76,000 Togolese came to vote as well, or they did not come to vote? How do we survive? Don't forget that we actually even have the question of whether one shall go through a verification or not go through. I mean, we have all that lingering. There are too many things lingering as we approach our major election, and the stakes are quite high, as you know. Indeed, every election in this country, the stakes are high. Can we survive? Should we just shut shop, create a new one, or should we just forget it and say no? There's nothing that's going to prevent the new one from becoming this one, so let's just understand and go forward. My name is Nanan Sakwao, and with me in the studio right next to me is my colleague, Kobe Nkrumah, who's with IT. He's our IT expert. Kobe, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And then I have Mr. Joe Jackson, who's a political consultant. Indeed, he consults not only for politics, but, you know, strategizing for business and looking forward. So if you are hard up and you don't see a way forward, maybe you want to look at him. Mr. Joe Jackson, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Now, we're going to go for an inset with regards to the new voters register. So we'll listen to the inset, and then after the conversation begins. Stay tuned.
So far, as at our September 22nd deadline, we have received a little over 30 submissions. 30. I think 15 political parties made submissions. The rest of the submissions came from civil society organizations. We had some from faith-based organizations. We had some from IT companies and private individuals, and a couple were anonymous. Now, as a commission, we are going to evaluate these proposals, and we're also investigating the allegations which have been made by some political parties, especially when it touches on the integrity or the security of our IT systems. We are getting independent outside expertise to help us look into those allegations. But while we're doing that alongside, we are also evaluating all the submissions we've received, particularly submissions towards cleaning up of the register. And we're going to put a team together to look into this. Our plan is that at the end of October, in the last week of October, we would be having a forum at which the media would be invited, political parties, civil society organizations, other stakeholders and state institutions would also be invited, and then we can all engage. Parties can make presentation, other people who have submitted presentations and we think that there's value in it would also be invited to make presentations, and we can all engage, and hopefully we can find some reach consensus or come to some resolution on the issue of the voters register. But as a commission, we do not believe that this should be a partisan matter. We do not think that it is a decision that must be taken by political parties. And indeed, we do not believe as a commission that there are only binary positions to be considered, as in register is okay, new register. We think that there's a lot of value in also the listening to all the views within the spectrum. So we're listening to all that, and we're engaging parties. We'll engage them as a collective and as individual parties. We'd also get independent technical expertise to come and support us in that process of evaluating what the concerns really are with the register and how we can all together work towards having a more credible register and a more credible electoral system.
And to everybody in this country, I'm sure that the opportunity is coming for everybody else who has some opinion on it, who has done some research, who thinks that for the forward march of this country in terms of elections can support some ideas. practically. I mean, it's good to have that public forum, and let's be heard some more, and then we can come to a firm conclusion.
You were telling me earlier, before you entered the meeting, that it's not that the NDC has taken an entrenched position on these matters. You are open to other ideas on all that.
Yes, I said so. I mean, and that's exactly why this forum is important. The meeting of IPAC, consultations. I mean, several groups of, shall I say, civil society groups have also come forward with some proposals, and we haven't seen those yet, but they're going to be made public to all of us, and then we can firmly say that this is the way forward. That's all. All I'm saying is that nobody should be stampeded into believing that what the MPP is saying is sacrosanct.
Something that this attempt by the MPP, the demonstrations and all that, is pretty unnecessary. The Let My Vote Count Alliance, a group associated with the MPP, they have been harshly criticized. You agree that those things are not really...
If you ask them, they'll tell you it's part of the democratic process. Nobody would deny them of them. But I'm sure if they are better informed, they'll use their time for something else that will make the country grow.
Oh, they are not better informed.
Pardon?
They are not better informed.
No. I mean, do they know about this forum? Have they submitted something to the Electoral Commission? They were not mentioned today here. Have they been mentioned here? But you can't, stampede the Electoral Commission into collecting petitions when the thing is already open, and several groups and civil societies have been here to say, yes, this is the way forward, without noise. You get what I'm saying? Yes. So, I mean, we'll invite...
Their name was not mentioned here, finally. Their name was not mentioned. Perhaps the locus is in question?
No, not the locus. I'm sure that if they have done some consultation as Let My Vote Count with many of the parties, not just the MPP, would have made a headway.
The EC announced that they had received presentations from over 30 bodies, including about 15 political parties, civil society organizations, and faith-based organizations as well. And they have decided that they'll organize a forum at the end of October, so that every party will have the opportunity to make presentations, and then we can arrive at a decision on the voters' register.
New voters' register, to do or not to do. That's if Shakespeare was alive and was Ghanaian today, he would probably have written a novel about it. Mr. George Jackson, to do or not to do? New voters register.
I like the way you put it, to do or not to do. Yeah. Simply put, it's too early to take a decision. And that's really what the issue is. To be fair, we must give the EC time to evaluate the submissions and then tell us what the submissions were about, give them a chance to evaluate what the MPP, the work the MPP has done, albeit with some samples, take their own samples, verify it, check it up, and then tell us whether in their opinion, the register should be scrapped or not. Or as the EC boss put it, she's looking at a continuum of events. One says scrap, one says keep it. And I suspect he's looking for some middle ground somewhere. Now, the problem is really this. If the register is as bad as it is supposed to be, then it must be scrapped. So they have to come back in a transparent process and tell us whether it is that bad, how they arrived at that conclusion, or it is really okay, and how they are, so that we can also make an independent judgment of where we're going. Any entrenched position is ridiculous, right? Why do I say so? A position to say the register is good is a ridiculous position. A position to say the register must be changed given this kind set of circumstances, is also fairly ridiculous. Why? Where's the money coming from? Where is the cash? Right? It is a fact that we are broke. There's no hiding that. In times past, we used to play games about the word broke or not broke, etc.
Crisis or challenge.
Right now, we are broke. Simply put, the pocket is empty. So to tell a broke person or a broke country to undertake an exercise as far-reaching and as expensive as a new voters register is not a decision that can be taken lightly. That's the simple. It's not. But if the register is bad, truly we don't have a choice. We must fix it. And to hold an election on a register that is patently bad will be worse than not holding the election.
Kobina, you guys are the ones who would have the access to add the extra names to it or take the extra name out. These are the IT guys who can fiddle and cause all the mess. Now, can we go into the system and take the excess names out, or I mean, how does this whole thing work? Because one time we knew that you have to be biometrically tested, and therefore your thumbprint was quite individual to you. So where are the extra ones coming from?
Well, the problem basically is not even with the system, it's with how the system is being used. We have a very porous backbone. Basically, I don't even think a backbone exists. Because if this backbone existed, this problem wouldn't even be there.
My viewers in English, what's a backbone?
As a human being, you have a spinal cord.
Sure.
Without your spinal cord, you can't move.
You can't move, yeah.
And a system like this needs a spinal cord, for which every other system will be plugged into. We have a social security system, we have a national identification system, we have a passport system. All these things are ways to identify our citizens. And if we don't have a centralized one that all of these plug into, we can't for sure say that everyone in the voters register is Ghanaian. When you were in secondary school, you had an index number, and you could be identified by that index number. When you were going to write your exam, no one could go sit at that table because it was identified to you. If I'm going to vote, I need to have a unique number. Why don't I know this number? Because it's not been made public to me to know that this number here is your number, you're going to die with it. When you're born and then you get to a certain age, you're supposed to be given this number till you hit the time when you fall, you die. If the system was like that and everyone had this unique number, I don't think it would be easy to take someone out and put someone in. Because, for instance, look at the United States system. The numbering system is set in such a way that you can identify if this person who has this number is even a male or female, whether they were born in this year, where they registered, it's all there in that number. It's the same thing used in South Africa, but we don't have that in Ghana. I don't think you know your national ID number or your voter's ID number.
No.
The one that people would know would be their passport number, because those ones they hold very dear to their hearts. And with this system not being that stable, you can't for sure say that no one can add something. Because I can't say 2009-054321 means that this number was registered to Nana Ansakwa in 2009 on 5th April. You don't know that. But that's what it's supposed to be. That number should have all that information inbuilt there. And then it would make it unique.
But how expensive, how difficult, how complex is it to have this backbone?
It's not difficult. It should have been done right from the beginning. The system they're using, that's what it was meant for. If I have that number and it's tied to my thumbprint, I don't even need a voter's ID card to go vote. Because when I get to the system and I put my thumb there, it brings up that number. It says, this is Kobi Nkrumah. There's no other Kobi Nkrumah with that thumbprint and that number. There can be another Kobi Nkrumah, but he can't have my thumbprint. He can't have my number. So it should have been done well from the beginning, and I wouldn't have had this problem.
I'll keep saying that because, you know, Joe's mentioning about expenses. We are broke. So, I mean, how much more is it to get a backbone?
Like he said, it's expensive now because we have to undo everything and start all over again. And that's what the problem really is. You see, we've been copying the wrong things and doing them badly. If we had done them right in the beginning, we wouldn't have had this problem. So yes, it is expensive. We're going to have to, if they are not able to fix it now, then we're going to have to start all over again.
Kobe, Joe, my frustration with the political class is that I have a feel, I think they are backing at the wrong tree, because the reason why the voters register is flawed is because, as Kobe is saying, there's no way of identifying who's a Ghanaian and who's not. So we can have 25,000 voters registers and any Nigerian, Togolese, Burkinabe would come and just write their name. So shouldn't they be backing at the national ID, you know, card tree rather than the, you know, registry tree?
You see, here's the problem. If the national ID exercise had succeeded, then, like he said, would have some sort of backbone or some reliable identification method to cross-reference our voters register. But listen, I registered for the national ID, and it's been how many years now, and I don't know what's happening, and I'm almost forgotten about. I'm not sure if you ask me to retrieve my ticket stub to go, even if it's available. I don't know. I really don't know. And there are two issues at stake. One is that as a nation, we have no method of identifying ourselves. Now, that has terrible consequences all around. I tell you this. One of the reasons why it is so hard for any of us as individuals to get credit is because there's no way I can identify who you are. Once I can't identify you, I won't give you credit. That's basic. So you find that the only credit available is if your company allows you to get credit, etc. That's one of the other things. What the method, the system we have now. Why? Because what you have is a system where at a certain point in time, people go up and say, I'm going to create a register for the vote. What does that do? It means that at a certain time, everybody knows that if I can pack this register, if I can fix that process, then at a later date, I have a way of influencing the results. Now, what he's talking about, which makes a lot of sense, is he's saying, listen, I wish we had a backbone, something that was independent of the voting process. Otherwise, all they're saying that if, you see, here's the challenge. The data is only as good as the process to get it in. And I confess that I am from an IT background. I spent the first 17 years of my life, my working life, as an IT person. So the data is only as good as the process by which you get it in. First thing you learn at your first computer class, garbage in, garbage out. And because the process to get it in is manual, we should have manual processes of ensuring that the right data is going in. All that is being said now is not really against that biometric process. It is saying that at the time of registration, people can smuggle others into that process, right? And then pack it for a later date. Now, those who say that the register, however flawed, will be flawed again is really a disingenuous argument. It's like saying to me that, hey, I slap you. And when I slap you, I can always slap you again. So don't complain. Just keep getting slapped and getting slapped. That's ridiculous. Right? If the register is truly as flawed as some people are claiming it to be. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think anybody has had the capacity to review the analysis that they did, that they claim they did, in order to say a yay or a nay. And we're hoping that the EC will do that in a transparent manner to give all of us confidence that they know what they're talking about. But listen, we cannot have the basics, the very basis of our election flawed.
It has to be solid.
It has to be fixed.
Let me go to the phone and speak to Reverend Asante. Reverend, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too. Now, here we are going into an election. Now we have two problems. Number one, during the Supreme Court case, we were not sure what shall means. Shall means whether, yeah, it may be yes or maybe no. We are not quite sure of what overvoting is. And now we are not sure of how many people are on the register. So we have all this in the basket, and we are moving into a very, high-stake elections ahead. I mean, what do we do as a country?
Thank you very much. As far as I'm concerned, the voters' register is a very, very important aspect of the democratic process that we have embarked on. If your voters' register is faulty, if there is something wrong with it, then the whole election is flawed right from the very beginning. And therefore, it is important to have a credible voters register. Now, in a situation where people have a feeling that the voters register that we have is questionable, is bloated, in the sense that there are double registrations, there are minors who have registered, there's also people arguing that there are non-Ghanaians who have also registered. And therefore, the number of people who claim to be, voters in our country is more than we have. Then there is a problem. If it is true that that is the case, it is necessary for the Electoral Commission to look at it carefully. And how are they going to do that? I think we need to look at it against the background of a nation where a lot of people have their own suspicion about the credibility of the Electoral Commission. And therefore, if the Electoral Commission is going to be able to do something, they need to do it in a transparent manner. They need to get people who can be trusted to really look at the various submissions that have been made by different people in respect of the voters register, so that at the end of the day, we'll be able to come up with something that will be acceptable by all. Let me tell you that, you're not going to have a situation where your voters register in a democracy such as ours, in a country that is clearly pluralized along party lines. You're not going to get people accepting it all, but you need to minimize the mistrust that people have. So I have a feeling that it is important for the Electoral Commission to try as much as possible to look into the submissions people have made. They need to do so in a very acceptable manner. Acceptable by acceptable manner, I'm talking about a body that will be accepted. Again, I am on record to have said that if you leave it with the parties themselves, there's going to be wranglings, because we're going to go into it with our partisan approach to things and will never come to a conclusion. And therefore, there is a need to bring in civil society. There is a need to bring in independent body. Again, who is going to appoint this independent body? Because as soon as the Electoral Commission comes out with an independent body, somebody is going to say that this is not a body. These are people they themselves have called. I would think that it is possible to bring together people from the various parties and civil society to even agree on the referees, the people who are to go through these things. Once they have done that, minimizing suspicion that people have, we will be able to have something that is acceptable, and so that, you know, at the end, very beginning.
Reverend, let me ask, will we ever get to a point where you're driving to work, you stop, you just go into a booth, vote, and then carry on to work? I mean, can we ever get there?
I wish we are in that kind of situation. But where our democracy is, where there's too much polarization and suspicion, I think it's far away. And we need to build confidence. We need to try as much as possible to do things that will enable people to have that kind of confidence. You're talking about, I have lived outside this country. In some places, you never even know that there's an election going on, not in Ghana. And so I think we need to work towards that. But to be able to do so, it is important for us to try as much as possible to do things that will eliminate, you know, suspicion in the matter.
Let me divert small and come. Will this, you know, I mean, the reasons why our stakes are too high is because of, you know, the zero sum where winner is taking all and the loser is literally losing all. If we minimize that, will they bring down the stakes and therefore bring down, you know, the pressure on the anxiety of voting?
There's no two ways about that we will be able to at least we will be able to try to minimize that. Now you have raised another very, you know, important issue, the winner takes all matter, the loser loses all. I think it is one of the things, we need to look at the entire thing as a package. Because why is it that people see election as a do or die affair? People spend fortune. People spend a lot of money trying to, you know, set themselves up, campaigning and all that. They lose, and that is the end of it. It's as if they don't really matter. And you also have a situation where immediately after elections, parties are getting ready for the next election. So you wonder whether all that democracy is about is election. When are we going to come together as Ghanaians, as people who are very much concerned about the development of our nation, to agree in our disagreement to push forward our development agenda rather than always aiming at winning election?
Reverend, thank you very much.
It's a very complex situation, and I think we need to look at it in its totality. But I think a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a mile, with a step. And therefore, it is important for us to try as much as possible to look at this voters register carefully, you know, because people have raised issues about it, and we should not think that there is nothing wrong with it. I mean, we should begin to ask ourselves and then begin to ask serious questions and try as much as possible to win the confidence of the people.
Reverend, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nana. I'm going to take a break, and then when I come back, I'm coming into studio to find out, you know, can we just have an automated system where everybody just slops into the voters register rather than queuing up for it? Stay tuned, we're coming. Well, new voters register, to do or not to do, simmering underneath. But let me come straight to studio and go to Joe Jackson, because I think you wanted to either add to or react to what the Reverend was saying.
It is to make a comment about the Reverend, and not just the Reverend. There's a thread that's been running through that has some of us really worried. You see, you cannot, by implication, impugn the integrity of the EC. If you do that, then we have bigger problems than even just the register. if the register is not a big enough problem. Why do I say this? You see, we cannot at one hand be saying that the EC is not independent enough to judge whether this register is good or bad, and that the EC has some biases. So we will not, the EC should go outside itself or its resources or consultants it can call to then go and take, have civil society or the political parties or IPAC or whatever to then create the body to investigate. That is a very dangerous route to go down, a route down which should go down. Why? Because then you are saying ab initio, I don't trust this EC. And so we should at this moment, when we're dealing with such a delicate issue with the threat of exploding, be very careful to always cut the EC slack. Always operate from the basis that unless proved otherwise, the EC is a body of integrity. And I will insist that regardless of what happens, you can petition the EC, you can picket the EC, but do not impugn the EC's integrity. Do not say or imply that the EC has biases and cannot do this investigation by itself.
Let me find out from Alex. I mean, Alex, you think the EC is doing this because they can't find expertise from here, or are they doing it for the sake of neutrality?
I think it will be the latter, neutrality, because already as it is, it seems as if people don't trust the EC as a body. So for them, considering other people, a third party, doing this will seem like, you know what, we're not the ones who came up with these results. They came out with these results. We didn't do it. So it's more of a neutrality.
You think they can find the expertise here?
For finding the expertise here, like I said, the system is not that flawed. And we have the same system running in multiple sectors of our country. So it's all about just referencing it to all the existing ones. So if I take the voters register, I can reference it to the SNIT, database. I can reference it to the National Identification Database, the National Health Insurance Database, driver's license database, passport database. So
I mean, I've said this so many times, and I may sound like a broken record, but every day I go to my diary, because my diary is sort of linked to my Facebook. So every day tells me whose birthday it is.
Exactly.
Every day. I mean, can you write a system like that so that every year we know who turned 18 and who didn't turn 18? Is it possible, or is it feasible? Is it feasible?
It is feasible, and it is absolutely possible, and that is how it should be. Every human being born in this country should be registered at a certain point in time. So when that is done, that is when, like you were asking Reverend, we can just walk into any polling station and vote. Right now I have to go to where I registered to vote. That in itself shows that there's a problem. But I understand that problem, because in the remote areas in Ghana, how do you expect the data over there to get to Accra when they don't even have electricity? We're not looking at all these things first. We should, when there's a proper, once again, let me use the word backbone, when the infrastructure is right, everything will be easy. If I go to Savelugu Nandon and I go and register there, I come back to Accra the next day, I can come and vote, because the data has already gotten here before I got here. Data should be faster than the human being, because we are in the digital age. But here we find that the human being is actually faster than the data, because certain places are so remote, you would out-travel the data. The data has to go here, come there before it gets here. And then that's where the problem is. So you find that I think some of the data doesn't even get here, it stays there. And that's how that's how the voters register could get bloated with people who register here and there. Because if I register in this region and I come here and come and register here, the data hasn't already come to converge to see that duplicates. And I don't think they even have time to now go through and find if there are duplicates. So that's where these problems arise.
Joe, is it just lack of political will, or is it just, shameless opportunism? Thinking, listen, if we do this, we lose out. Let's leave the system as it is, because we're running a system where you depend on people's ignorance to win votes. And these are some of the things you need.
You see, the truth of the matter is this country is so polarized that the moment that the NPP said that the voters register was bad, the NDC will say it is good.
But if they come to say,
and if the NDC had been the first people to say the voters register was bad, I assure you the NPP would have said it is good. So, listen, I really, in today's environment, you cannot rely on what any of them is saying. All you can do is to verify it independently. And I believe that the EC is doing one of two things. One, by bringing out outside expertise, it is hoping that it will appear more transparent, independent, and that there'll be less of an influence on these experts. The second reason really is this. Which IT people in Ghana have truly demonstrated that they know what they are about with a national database? And truly, all the databases we have are flawed. The National Health NHIS system has major flaws. The National ID system, I don't know whether it's even working for us to even start to talk about it properly.
Yeah, it has to start working before it goes flawed.
Exactly. the passport system. Please don't mention the driver's license. Just let's leave that kind of worms alone. So really, what the telecom registers that the telecom companies are holding, I mean, even the NCA won't tell you that is working well. So really, we have nobody here who's had that much experience in cleaning up databases. And listen, it happens everywhere in the world. You put a database together, periodically you go back, check for duplicates, clean it out, do certain things. It's not abnormal. And that's another thing to bear in mind. To even ask for a cleanup of the database is not particularly abnormal. Right? Now, what they are asking for, what the NPP is asking, says like the database is, sometimes you have to just speak. I'm a fancy man, and there's some things that are best expressed in fancy. It's completely rotten. That's what they're claiming. Now, whether it is that rotten or you need to clean up, I will insist, let's give the EC a chance.
We've been running this democracy since '92.
Yes.
We've gone through Rawlings, we've gone to Kufuor, we've gone through Mills,
we've gone through JM.
They've all traveled up and down. What is it that stops Ghana as a state to say, full stop? We are going to find a way to identify a child that is born today. I mean, it's so basic, so simple, because otherwise everything you do is guesswork.
Okay.
What stops us? Because even now, we've put that aside and we are fighting for the register, knowing very well that we need to find a way of identifying the Ghanaian.
Let's put it this way. I don't think anybody has come up with the political will to fix it. There's been a mixture of silos, everybody fighting for a little piece of the pie and protecting his area. So the National Health Insurance System wants to keep its own system and doesn't want to talk to anybody else. And then put that in, throw in a bit of corruption, throw in a bit of money chopping, etc. Throw in the lack of political will to fix it, because fixing this doesn't really score any points in the long term. And then we are where we are. What we're saying is this: if this voters register is proven to be flawed, and maybe this is a chance for us to do the right thing for once. Let us bear in mind that what is at stake in 2016 is this: the country is so polarized that if any faction is given a chance to believe that it has been robbed, there could be chaos or a lot worse. This is not a matter that can be swept under the carpet. This is not a matter that can be wished away. This is not a matter that we can deal with by just saying that there's no money. This is a matter in which we must address conclusively, clearly, and demonstrate to everybody and the whole world and ourselves that we did check it out and that this register is good enough or not. In fact, regardless of how much we don't have money, if the register is sufficiently flawed, we should scrap it. That's a very... Because if we don't, right? If we don't, we have created a situation where anybody can use that as an excuse to say, the register is bad, I don't trust this election, and I've been robbed, and so on and so forth. And we can either look at a doomsday scenario or we can look at something better, but we're in trouble.
Kobe, I mean, how big a computer would you need to put, because I'm estimating about 30 million people. So, I mean, how big a drive or disk do you need?
Can I call time out for Kobe? That's a very difficult question. Unless Kobe was going to bit.
No. I can't say. You can't say.
It's not that simple. Listen.
But because that's the challenge, because we need to find a system where we all fit in it. And I'm presuming by now we're hovering around the 30 million mark.
You see, listen, this issue is not 30 million people. The issue is people are born everywhere in this country. In places where there are power, in places where there's no power. People are born in hamlets. People are born on farms. Not everybody goes to school. So your challenge is not just, listen, I'm ready to tell you that your Mac laptop in front of you, if it's just simply a matter of putting 30 million records, I bet you can fix it into this machine. Truly. That's not what the issue is at all. The issue is the process. The issue is never the hardware. The issue is never the software. The issue is the manual process, and I don't know what copy. It has nothing to do. It's not the computer. It's not the IT guys.
But the mobile phone guys are doing it now. As soon as you go, he picks up the phone, click. It says, "I've registered you." And everybody.
Have you tried carrying your registration from Tigo to Airtel or MTN to Vodafone?
No, I haven't done
Please,
it.
when you can do that, I assure you, then we will go and talk to them. It's not that simple, Kobe. I don't know. It's not an IT problem.
The infrastructure is not there, so everything is suffering. It's like building a story building with a very bad foundation. You can only go as far.
So you and IT. If I were JM, right? So I call Kobe and say, "Look, Kobe, I saw you on PM. Going on about you on IT. What does it take for me to start, building something so that I put everybody on there with one ID? Where do I start from?" But that's what we have to do.
A very, very good framework. A very, very good framework that can connect to a central server. And that means that that person in that hamlet that's giving birth is going to some way, somehow get that records on that server. So it means that telephone companies are going to have to work hand in hand with the government. It means that electricity company is going to have to work hand in hand with them. It means the hospitals are going to work hand in hand. Everywhere, everything has to be connected. If there's a single disconnect, that's where the problem starts.
I'm going to take a break. When I come back, those in the remote areas are going to have solar, and MTN says they are all over the place. So we have solar, we have MTN. We're coming straight back. Well. New voters register to do or not to do, and at the moment I'm playing the president, and I'm trying to hire my consultant and my IT guy here to see what is it that I need to put on the table to get this rolling. Because, folks, I don't see any, how we can do it. But then Kobe raised a very interesting point that even the country is not mapped out yet.
It's not even mapped out well.
Google will do that for us.
Exactly. If a company like Google could map out some of the remotest places in the world with as much as a backpack on someone's back, why can't a country do this? The country can go into the remotest areas with just a backpack with enough data, enough power, enough resources to collect all this data. At the same time, we need to sensitize the people. Let them know that when a child is born, it's key to make sure that this person's data is within the system, else your child is more or less not a citizen of the country. When people get that emergence of that, that when they know that this is very important for me to do for my child, as soon as it will register Obano, it's very important that a child has an ID. When that is done, you know that people would not let it pass. They will do it. Immunization. I know a lot of people give birth and the kids get immunized. Are we saying that we can't even give them IDs as well during that process? There are a lot of ways that we can, it requires a lot of brainstorming, but I'm not saying it's impossible. It's very, very possible. It just requires that we will think outside the box.
Joe, what do you reckon? 1 year to get going? What should do? A year, 6 months? I think 6 months.
I think 6 months is a very short, really short time.
To
do a new register.
So 6 months is short. We can vote, and then the vote evens out, and then we come back and do all the voting again. If we put that effort in, I'm sure we can do it.
Listen, you can do it in. Nah.
6 is tight.
Nah, not 6 months.
1 year safe.
Yeah, if you had a full year, you could really reasonably.
How much cash would I put on the table?
A lot of cash. A lot of cash. I will do a low ball estimate of anything from $75 million. I'll do a high ball estimate of 3 times that.
Get a good, solid system going. Yes. Is it out of our reach?
Well, do we have that kind of cash? We don't have cash to pay the queens. We don't have 23,000. Maybe asking me to pay 75 million, 150 million.
We need to settle. Was it 5,000 or 23,000?
23,000. This is Ghana, where
we got 1 billion, 1.7 from cocoa syndication. We can, sacrifice 200 million of that.
Please be careful. The cocoa money we've chopped, though. Remember, that last year we promised 1 million tons of cocoa. We delivered 700,000. We have a deficit. The cocoa money is not coming to you and I, our pockets. It's going to pay for bills and interest rates and remember that in 2016 a lot of our debt is due, and as of now I'm not sure they know exactly where they're going to pay that the first bonds we took. So please, cocoa money, don't go there.
But we have to do it. So then what do we do?
What do Ghanaians do? They take the cap, they go in hand, and they beg. That's what we do as a nation. That's the only way out. We take the cap, we go and we threaten. If you don't give us cash, the whole of West Africa will go up in flames. We beg.
But should we send the president out begging for this cause?
If and only if he believes that the register should be changed.
No, not the register being changed. Because whether the register should be changed or not, we need to have a centralized data system.
You do.
Even if the register came and said, it's squeaky clean. As a nation, we need a centralized data system. And I'm saying, should we send him out now with a cap, a big cap?
Oh, it is a worthy cause. Listen, this is a worthy cause, and I also work in the financial sector, and I'll be the first to tell you that it will be wonderful for the financial sector. Of course, there are privacy issues, and other considerations that I would dearly love to be looked at within the process so that people are protected from abuse of that information. But I assure you that we do need it, right? I also know clearly in my mind that I don't see where the money is coming from, where we sit, right? But I have to assume that we'll do the same thing.
Heritage Fund. Yeah, take a bit from the Heritage Fund. I won't even go there, right? A bit from the Heritage Fund. Get a good data system, so by the time the this
you
Heritage
know the exciting thing about this Heritage Fund. Every time Ghanaians fall into trouble, they want to go for the Heritage Fund. And they say, oh, the fuel is too expensive for Heritage Fund. Oh, the Heritage Fund is meant for our heritage. It was never meant to be used.
The data system is going to be for heritage, but Joe Jackson has been wonderful. Kobe Nkrumah has been wonderful. Thank you very much for coming on the show. And as I always say, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. But tomorrow, our personality is a wonderful, wonderful woman. Taught for about 17 years. She turned 40 and decided, I'm not going to work for anybody, so she decides to start farming. And you should hear what she's doing. Amazing. It makes you wonder, wow, here in Ghana, and people are drowning in the Mediterranean, running away. There is opportunity here. You don't want to make personality profile tomorrow. But thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned tomorrow for personality profile. Guys, thank you very much.